Hello, and welcome to my channel. I hope you're doing as well as possible. Thank you so much for being here. We've had a lot of new subscribers lately, and as always, I just really want to thank you for subscribing. It really helps me to create these sessions, and I just want to make sure that I show my gratitude here for you for doing that. And it helps me know that you like the kind of content that I'm creating. So thank you so much. And for this session, I wanted to create a supportive, energetic healing session for people pleasers to move through that experience or habitual behavior, and to maybe start to recognize that, as a friend of mine said, when we engage in people-pleasing behavior, nobody's pleased. So, with that said, I am going to begin with a little bit of sage. And we are just going to move through your aura and do some cleansing, some clearing, hopefully to help you arrive here in this present moment with a clean slate, or as clean of a slate as is possible. Okay, so I'm going to begin by doing some preliminary clearing, moving through your aura and cleansing anything that you might be holding on to from the day. And this is a helpful reminder, a gentle reminder to arrive in this present moment, right here, right now, just you and me. And to try our best to release from the mental plane what we are releasing from your energy levels, from your aura. So when we talk about people-pleasing behavior, how many of you feel like you identify as a people pleaser? Now, people pleasing behavior is not about being kind or considerate or trying to accommodate the energy of other people. When we're talking about people-pleasing behavior, we're talking about those times when we habitually sacrifice our own perspective, comfort, sense of truth, where we prioritize the needs and wants, and sometimes the perceived needs and wants of other people. Just checking that the mic is on. It's been going off every now and again. But we want to really make sure that we are living as integrated a life as possible so that we aren't shifting our behavior in order to make others more comfortable. And we might shift on a smaller scale. We might be maybe trying to accommodate for somebody else's comforts or discomfort, but we don't prioritize others above ourselves. This can be really tricky to find the balance between living an authentic life, caring for yourself, prioritizing your wants and needs, and being generous and considerate and caring for others. So hopefully this is about pointing out and bringing some awareness into this space of people-pleasing behavior. And if you are someone who's on the other side of the spectrum, who doesn't really consider the perspective of others, who is not connected to the energies of those around you, if you are somebody who maybe is really navel-gazing and tends to turn inward and shun other people, then obviously you would want to balance in the other direction and try to lift your gaze to the experience of others. But sometimes as people pleasers, we can give up a lot of ourselves, give up a lot of our boundaries. There's usually a link between people-pleasing behavior and difficulty setting boundaries, difficulty speaking your mind, or maybe difficulty speaking your truth in specific situations. So, as we talked about in our previous video, the Know Thyself video, this is about knowing where you are and finding the balance around that. But we can't really find a balance unless we know what the starting point is. I'm going to use a little bit of this. This is lavender and rosemary. And this was one of your favorite essential oil combos. You had so many good ones when I asked you about it in the previous video. I'm trying to incorporate them. Feel free to leave more on this video so that I can have a new crop of inspiration. 2 monarch butterflies just flew by the window. Just so you know, they wanted to say hello. So I just wanted to spray that in your aura. And I'm just going to thicken your aura up a little bit. How are you feeling today? If you are a people pleaser, sometimes you can get really tired. It can be really exhausting trying to anticipate the wants and needs of other people, or showing up in a guise that you think that other people want to receive from you. Having to feel like you are a few steps ahead of other people can be really exhausting and overwhelming. So my intention for this session is just to remind you that there are other options. You can choose a different way to behave, and it's always available to us to make a different decision about what we want our lives to look like and how we want to move through our own experience of this time that we get here on Earth. So, with that said, I'm going to light a candle and set our intention. It's definitely a process, I would say that. Moving from the behavioral pattern of people-pleasing into a much more integrated and aligned behavioral pattern of speaking your mind and feeling comfortable setting boundaries, or maybe not comfortable, but of setting boundaries. It can be a pretty uncomfortable shift, and it can take a lot of time. So another thing I really want to focus on here is just being gentle with yourself, giving yourself grace, maybe even just recognizing that this is a pattern for you could be a helpful component of this session. Sometimes we don't even realize that we are prioritizing others, and just important aspects of self-awareness. Brene Brown talks in her research about how the most wholehearted people are those who have the strongest boundaries. And I think that link is pretty interesting to consider. When we can be true to ourselves, when we know who we are, it's a really powerful tool for connection. We can know exactly how to communicate. We can have a firmer sense of self when people are direct with us and clear and honest and can express their truth with us. It's much easier to receive, much more comfortable to receive than someone who is wishy-washy or maybe trying to anticipate what we want to hear. How many of you have had an interaction with someone like that, like with a people pleaser, and you end up just leaving feeling confused and maybe even a little empty from that lack of connection? Because very often with people pleasers, a people pleaser will try to tell you what you want to hear, and people pleaser might sort of just anticipate what you might want from the interaction. And connection really comes from the sharing of ourselves. And so when that's not really happening, it can feel kind of one-sided, and then it can feel a little like a vapid exchange versus someone who is comfortable being vulnerable and sharing a little bit more of themselves and their truth and all of that. But anyway, whether you're a people pleaser or wherever you fall in terms of these behaviors, there's nothing wrong with you. You're amazing and wonderful. And this session is here just as hopefully a supportive session for just reminding you that there's an opportunity for a shift here if you're open to it. Okay. Here we go. So we're going to use this flame here to set our intention. This wood-wicked candle is definitely not, it doesn't have as crackly an energy or sound as my previous candles did. Maybe I'll have to go back to those. But I'm going to place one hand on my heart space. You can feel free to do the same as well. So, on behalf of your highest wisest, most empowered and aligned self, in loving comfort and perfect balance, I wish to conduct this Reiki session for supporting people pleasers, helping you maybe transition into a new modality, a new way of responding, and maybe just bringing some gentle awareness into this space. So, if you would like to clarify or specify or set your own intention, if you're not a people pleaser, feel free to use this flame to do so now. I think a lot of us are people pleasers. I think we're kind of told that that's really important. We're sort of taught that prioritizing other people's perspectives is really important, even if we're not told that verbally. Sometimes the suggestion can be really clear, especially if we are raised in an environment where we have a very strict household, or maybe a very judgmental parent. We can start to feel like if we're not anticipating the wants and needs of those around us, we might not get some of our basic emotional needs met. So it's important just to give ourselves some grace here and to recognize that you're not alone. A lot of people are like this. And in a lot of ways, people-pleasing behavior, people-pleasing tendencies are like a lot of things we talk about here. It's a coping mechanism. So maybe now you don't need it. Maybe now you can make a different decision. Let's get our selenite wands, do a little deeper clearing. So we have our 2 selenite wands, and we are going to move through your aura. I usually like to use selenite wands as an initial cleansing. We're going to go a little bit deeper with these wands today. It's really wonderful to offer help to others. It's really so powerful in connecting to help other people. People-pleasing behavior is usually about someone who always says yes, no matter what's going on in their lives. There's usually somebody in the life of a people pleaser who is going to feel like they're not being prioritized. Or a people pleaser might be someone who's constantly burnt out and constantly overwhelmed and overbooked. If you are a people pleaser, then chances are you make plans that you have to cancel, or maybe there are some people in your life who you might take for granted, and you're someone who might say yes to helping an acquaintance at the expense of maybe helping your best friend or one of your family members or your partner. So it's just really important to start to recognize when we have space for ourselves, when we have respect for ourselves, and when our self-worth isn't wrapped up in the validation of others, it's usually a lot easier to be able to set boundaries, be honest about the time we have to help others, and we can more easily prioritize people and things in our lives, prioritize ourselves, and we can more easily navigate what we're able to do, what we have time and space for. So maybe after this session, if you're like, oh my gosh, that's me, I do that. I always prioritize whoever's in front of me instead of thinking about things that, if I was in more alignment, I would maybe behave differently. That your sense of integrity is consistent. You are consistent no matter who you're around and what's going on. Your priorities are consistent, that sort of thing. And if you struggle with that, again, there's no shame here. I was thinking maybe you could revisit one of my videos about self-worth and self-confidence, because I think ultimately that can be what it comes down to, is that you maybe don't feel that you have much value unless you're helping others, or unless the person who's right in front of you is pleased with everything that you're doing, and making the person in front of you happy is the most important thing for you. It can just sometimes tangle up our energy. So maybe just remembering, grounding in your own sense of worth, that your opinions, your perspective, your time is valuable, and that you can start the practice of validating yourself and surrounding yourself with people who will validate you. Because you might find yourself drawn to people who might take advantage of you, which is not pleasant. That's not nice. So, learning how to set our own boundaries, value our time and energy, and really practicing self-love and self-care, and connecting with our inherent sense of self-worth. These can be things that can help to combat this people-pleasing behavior, I believe. So I think there are 2 stones that I would definitely recommend if you are a people-pleaser. Tiger's Eye would be fantastic for that, because Tiger's Eye is about boosting your confidence, really connecting with your authentic self, strength, resilience. And Sodalite is about expression, balancing our truth, and it's also about confident communication. So I think if you're moving through this, these 2 stones could be really helpful if you are someone who struggles with people-pleasing tendencies. So I'm just going to move these through your aura. And you can just breathe as normal. try your best to invite some gentleness into the space. Try your best not to be too hard on yourself. A tendency, I think, of people pleasers as well is to have a difficult time being in the present moment. And these are all trauma cues, I think from that develop at an early age. But yeah, having a difficult time being present, maybe you have a difficult time meditating. And with meditating, you're kind of like, I don't get it. What am I supposed to do here? Maybe start looking at this. Might not be the case. Maybe you're a people pleaser who's great at meditation and really connected. But in my experience, I have found a link between those two. So I felt called to share that. Your truth and your perspective is really valuable. And we, have really developed as human beings to need for our own survival the approval of others. Tara Brach talks about that a lot. And how our brains have evolved to really need approval. So there's nothing wrong with you if you feel that real need for approval. That's a basic human instinct. That's a survival mechanism, right? But if you are kind of compulsively prioritizing others and compulsively, maybe apologizing or overbooking or saying yes to things that you actually aren't able to deliver on, or saying yes to something at the expense of something, someone else, or maybe even yourself. Just bringing some light here, shining some light on this. But we shouldn't feel shame about that tendency. Not only are you not alone, it also is a very adaptive survival mechanism. But it's one that hopefully we can choose. When we're in a job interview, if somebody is asking us, if someone is asking us in a job interview a question that's a little bit difficult to navigate, maybe we don't want to give the whole truth, or we don't want to give the wrong impression or something like this. Navigating that in a way where we can be authentic to ourselves, but also not miss this opportunity, can be really helpful. So people pleasing and being tactful are different things. People pleasing is more about kind of compulsively sitting on the fence so that you're not forced to make a decision that might rock the boat, or that kind of thing. So when we're talking about these things, obviously want to be sensitive and careful that we're not suggesting that being mindful, conscientious of others is something that we want to change. No, that's like one of the best things in the world, is being kind, compassionate, conscientious. We just want to make sure that we can understand our own value as well as the value of others. Okay. So I'm very gently going to place this right on your throat. And then this on your solar plexus. I would love to hear if you have any suggestions about or examples of people pleasing, and any suggestions for those who are struggling with people pleasing tendencies, any kind of advice from your own experience if you are someone who has moved through it. That might be a helpful space to do that. I'm gonna spray my hands one more time, and then we'll do a little Reiki. I'm going to place my hand at the nape of your neck, and then my other hand just outside of your throat here, just allowing this energy to pass back and forth in between my palms. Just hovering my hands outside of your throat, really empowering you in this space, empowering you to speak your truth. You will be more in alignment if you start to practice speaking your truth. If any of you struggle with tightness in the throat, feeling like blocked here, tight, tense, held. If you often feel tension or even maybe soreness here, might consider really trying to balance the throat chakra. I have a video about balancing the throat chakra here, so maybe that could be helpful for you. Now I'm going to place my hands on your solar plexus and just a few inches above your belly button here. So just placing my hands in this space and really trying to empower your sense of self-worth, activate this area of confidence with this true belief in your value, because you're so valuable. Your time, your energy, so valuable. I'm going to just slip my hand behind your back here at the same spot. And so my hand is hovering in the front and then laying on your back and allowing this energy again to just pass back and forth between my palms. So if you want to breathe into your diaphragm, breathe into this space in your upper belly. Very good. And I'm just going to connect these two areas. Activating in the throat. Activating in the solar plexus. One hand on the solar plexus, one hand hovering outside of the throat, helping you connect to this sense of confidence with your voice, helping you express yourself from a place of self-worth, helping to connect your worthiness to your truth. You're worthy of sharing your truth. You're worthy of expressing yourself. You're worthy of setting boundaries. And just try to be gentle with yourself. If you're engaging in the process of moving through this kind of tendency, just be kind to yourself and recognize that it's a process. And every little step is helpful. So every time someone makes a joke that you don't agree with and you feel like you want to laugh to make them feel better, but you recognize that it doesn't make you feel good when you do that, every time that you take a breath and maybe don't laugh, that's a win. And that moves you closer to that alignment, honoring yourself. Every time that when someone says, hey, can you help me with this thing? I'm really blah, 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 and you say, and everything in you wants to say, yeah, sure, of course I can do that, without thinking, oh, I have to do this, and that means I'll have to go to bed at 1 a.m. Oh no, Every time that you say, actually, I'm not able to do that, I hope that you can find someone that is. I hope you're able to figure that out, but I'm not able to do that this time. Those are wins. They might seem small, but they can be really scary. Really scary to let people down and disappoint people. These monarch butterflies are just fluttering right behind you. They're here to support you. Okay. You are divine. You are connected. You are expressive. You are loved. You are strong. You are creative. You are safe. You are so safe. Now, one thing I wanted to mention before we close about this behavior is that if you are somebody who constantly finds yourself in situations where you're overextending, or you're saying yes to people, or maybe anticipating other people's, and other people aren't aware of the fact that you're doing this, and they think that you're saying yes because you have the space for it. It's your responsibility. It's your responsibility to set those boundaries, to express yourself. So if you're using your people-pleasing tendencies in order to hold resentment or build up resentment towards other people, that's not going to be very helpful for your connection with them or for your connection with yourself. Because at the end of the day, you are responsible for your energy. You are responsible for your time. And while it can be really annoying if you offer somebody something and somebody, takes advantage of that, while it can be really frustrating when someone is, and awful when someone's taking advantage of us, really it's our job. It's our job to make sure that we are setting boundaries, communicating our wants and needs, and making sure that we are aware enough to know how these things impact us. So hopefully we're not, using our people pleasing or our discomfort with saying no to things, our discomfort with setting boundaries in order to hold resentment, because that is really a very toxic thing for our own energy. So I just wanted to mention that quickly. I'm just going to move through with the selenite ones. So do one final clearing here. Moving down. Moving down. Clearing any more debris that might be here. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, it's an honor to connect with you. I am so grateful to each and every one of you. You are, the reason I do this, obviously, and it's just incredible to be able to share this space with you. So thank you. And until we meet again, be so well. Clicky